Hello, fellow patriots, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Red, Rights, and You. It's the holiday season, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Mark and I are on vacation. We're not even really here. This is not even us talking right now. It may be a figment of your imagination, maybe not, but we are going to do a very impromptu, as you've probably already guessed, lighthearted version of our YouTube broadcast today. We are going to talk about the presidents who have served in our lifetimes, get a little bit of information out about each one, what they did, some of the positives, if there are any, the negatives, if there are, and there always are. And then we are going to rank these presidents ourselves in how we feel they rank with their legacy moving forward. So, first of all, let's take a look at the list. President number 35. Here's the only place Mark and I differ because I was born barely during this administration, and that is JFK, John F. Kennedy. He was our 35th president, and he served from 1961. I was born in 1962 to 1963. Lyndon B. Johnson, 1963 to 1969. Richard Nixon was number 37, 1969 to 1974. Gerald Ford, number 38, 1974 to 1977. Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer, 1977 to 1980. And then we had two-termer Ronald Reagan. He was number 40, served from 1981 to 1989. Number 41 was George H.W. Bush, 1989 to 1993. 42 was Bill Clinton, 1993 to 2001, two-termer. 43, George W. Bush, 2001 to 2009, again, two-termer. Number 44, two-termer Barack Obama, 2009 to 2017. Number 45, Donald J. Trump, 2017 to 2021. Number 46, Joe Biden, 2021 to 2025. And then, of course, we have Donald J. Trump again. So he will be a two-termer, just not consecutive terms, serving from 2024 to 2028, unless he decides to run again. So, Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I apologize that I'm wearing a partisan shirt. I'm wearing a national championship Ohio State Buckeyes shirt from 2002. It actually looks pretty good being that old, and I wear it all the time.
I can't believe how they just slaughtered Michigan this year. What a game. They destroyed them in every aspect of the game. I don't think
That's pretty bold considering we're filming this before the game. I hope you're right.
It's going to happen. I'm thinking really, really positive. OH, baby. OH.
I know. But until we are still in that team up north week. And as you can tell, the M has been crossed out of my shirt. Because that's something that Ohio people do, is we block out the M's this week.
Mine too. Do you see the M's on my shirt have been blocked out? See?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
This is how you block them out when you don't have any tape, Mark.
Right. But you can't spell championship without crossing out an M. So hopefully Ohio State does their job. But if you're not an Ohio State fan, that's okay. We like you anyway.
That's it.
As opposed to politics, I consider sports friendly rivalries. You might hate your rival, but do you really hate them? Not really. It's just kind of more of a fun hate, kind of like not a real hate. Maybe.
I mean, one of your family members is a Michigan fan and went to Michigan, do you not invite him to Thanksgiving dinner? Probably not. But kidding.
Yeah.
It's not like the Democrats with the Republicans, right? You vote for Trump, forget about Thanksgiving over at Aunt Karen's.
Right.
We're going to talk a little bit about these presidents. A quick background. Mark and I are going to give you a quick rundown of how we feel they did. Mark, feel free to jump in here as I go through these synopsis real quick if you have anything to add. So let's start with John F. Kennedy. Again, Mark's disqualified from this one because he wasn't born yet. He's a young whippersnapper. But he was 1961 to 1963. Unfortunately, his presidency was cut short by an assassin's bullet. He was a World War II hero, senator. He went to Harvard, Harvard guy with a movie star aura, good-looking young president. He handled the Cuban Missile Crisis like a champ. He launched the moon mission. He inspired America to actually feel patriotic. On a not so good note was the Bay of Pigs, not exactly a highlight reel moment. But Americans loved him like a national celebrity. Foreign leaders respected him, or at least feared being stared at by that perfect smile with those perfect teeth. Do you remember, Kennedy, what you heard, Mark?
Besides Marilyn Monroe?
Besides what Marilyn Monroe told you on that blind date.
I think he was a really good president, and I know that it's very easy that when someone is killed or dies young, we tend to look at all the great things about him and not so much the bad. It'd been interesting to see if he had lived, what kind of presidency he would have had. Who knows? Maybe he would have had some major missteps in a second term. Maybe he'd be tarnished. But I know we're not ranking him yet. But if I could rank him, even though he's not in my lifetime, he's definitely going to be up there for a Democrat.
Right.
And probably in today's times, his positions are so moderate that I know that a Kennedy would never be a Republican, but he could almost pass as a Republican today.
Yeah, never.
Yeah.
Never would they be a Republican, but they would certainly take a spot in the administration. Wink, wink. And then we have Lyndon Baines Johnson, 1963 to 1969. He was a Texas school teacher turned power-hungry political bulldozer. The Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, those were major historical wins. Of course, bad, the Vietnam escalation and that we'll be home by Christmas promise became 10 years. His reputation, Americans were divided. Foreign countries appreciated the civil rights progress, but were confused by why the U.S. was also carpet bombing Asia. What do you think about LBJ?
I was a baby when he was president, so I don't remember him. But, the Civil Rights Act and all of those social issues, a lot of what we see today as far as the social programs that we have came from the Johnson administration. So even though he wasn't a very likable guy, his imprint is still felt on this country today. I'm gonna factor that highly in my rankings, even though the Vietnam War, that's a major blemish. He kind of inherited that, though. That had been going on for a long time, and then the next president inherited it as well.
Yep, and that next president, Richard Milhouse. Where in the hell did they get these middle names? Anyhow, Richard.
He was a Quaker. It might have been a Quaker name.
Okay.
No, he was a Quaker. Yeah.
Richard, we'll just say M. Nixon, 1969 to 1974. He was a former VP. Kind of awkward charisma, talented at foreign policy, and recording himself committing crimes, evidently. Did open China, ended the U.S. involvement in Vietnam, started the EPA. Many people forget that. And then, of course, the bad, three guesses, first two don't count, Watergate, the political scandal that still out-scandals most modern scandals. And as far as reputation, Americans ranked him mixed but guilty. Foreign nations respected his diplomacy, but everyone laughed when he said, let's see if I can do this. I am not a criminal. Or was it crook? A crook.
Crook. I am not a crook.
I am not a crook. I am not a crook.
Yeah.
So what do you think about old Tricky Dick?
I do have memories of him being president. He was president until, what was it, 70? What time? What'd you say, 74?
I'm going to use my cheat sheet. 1974. Like yes, sir.
Okay. So he won re-election in 72 in a landslide. The people were behind him, and he was doing a phenomenal job. Now, you did obviously have the Vietnam issue that, looking at it in hindsight, is a knock. But he won in a landslide, and what's really sad and tragedy is they didn't need to break into the Watergate office building to get the intel, because he had the campaign in the bag. I mean, it's almost like you're a football team and you're up by 10 touchdowns, and then you still cheat to try to get more. And that's the tragedy of Richard Nixon, because he was an excellent statesman. His personality, though, that was his downfall. His pride, his arrogance. I don't think he authorized the break-in, but I think he knew about it, and then he tried to cover it up.
And speaking of football, Gerald Ford, he was next, yes. 1974 through 1977. Apparently he was an athlete, even though I do believe history will show he was also the first president. Everybody forgets because they talk about Biden, but I believe he was the first president to fall up the steps of Air Force One. He was the House Minority Leader. He became president because everybody basically above him quit or went to jail. He helped stabilize government after Watergate. He was a decent guy. A lot of people don't like that he pardoned Nixon. Countries say, come on, bro, seriously. And his reputation, Americans respected him, but were about the leadership. Abroad, he was seen as practical and harmless, kind of like presidential vanilla ice cream.
He was president for such a short period of time, but I do remember him as a kid being president. He didn't lose by much to Carter. So even though a lot of people were upset with him for pardoning Nixon, enough people liked him. That race with Carter was actually pretty close. I think it was wasn't it within just a percentage or two? I don't know off the top of my head, but the race was really close when Carter beat Ford. And so I think he was respected. You mentioned that he played football. I think he played for Michigan, if I remember right.
Yeah, you said the word. Oh. Bite your tongue, Mark. Am I going to have to edit that out? Bite your tongue.
Can you edit out the M?
Maybe we can just mute Michigan there. Oh, I said it now. We're going to have to mute it twice.
We are bad.
Team up north.
That team up north. That team up north.
Yeah, he did. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he was a center. Way more information than I should know. So I guess centers are still athletes. Sorry to all you centers up there. I'm going to be walking around one day. I'm just going to get crushed by a NFL center.
Yeah.
But you talked about Jimmy Carter. He was next. 1977 to 1980, charismatic Jimmy Carter. How's that? He was a peanut farmer, Navy officer. He had that Sunday school energy, was a Christian, overall good guy. He's known for the Camp David Accords, a massive push for human rights. He had more liberal tendencies. But the bad, of course, inflation, something the left is famous for. Gas lines, the Iran hostage crisis, not a great combo platter. He was the first president where I really got politically involved in something when they had the hostages. I remember going out and holding up the sign. You had the nuke Iran's, bomb Iran was the song and all that stuff before Trump actually went in and did it. But his reputation, Americans thought he was a sweetheart, but shouldn't run the country. Foreign nations liked him personally, but didn't fear him at all. And I think all of his best work really was done as a private citizen after he left the presidency with Habitat for Humanity and all those things. Truly a good guy, God-fearing man, did some really good things, but was not a great president. I think I remember his brother Billy more than I remember him for anything that he did.
I pretty much agree with everything that you said. My impression of him even as a kid is that he was weak. I didn't have a lot to compare. All I had is Nixon as a young guy. Now I remember on All in the Family, Richard Nixon was Archie Bunker's favorite president. And I know they handled some of that during the show. I don't remember what he said about Carter because the show was still on. But he was weak. That botched attempt to try to rescue the hostages where the helicopters crashed in the desert, that was a blemish as well. You don't go on the air and tell the people you're going to have to set your heat low and you're going to have to wear sweaters and all this sort of thing. That's not what Americans want to hear. And I think the worst thing about Carter is the country did not feel good about itself at all. If I look at my lifetime, the period of time that the country was under some sort of a crisis of confidence, was when Carter was president.
Yeah.
And you look back at the 70s, there's a lot of crappy stuff that happened in the 70s. And I'm not going to mention disco because I happen to like disco. I don't know why, but I do. I listen to the Bee Gees on occasion. I got some old songs that I like to listen to, and it's fun music. So disco's not bad.
I've still got the Onyx Eagle on a chain, the puffy sleeve shirt, and the wide lapelled suit jacket, platform shoes, and bell-bottom pants to prove what a great period in history. If you'd have seen me, you'd realize that maybe it wasn't such a great period in history after all. Now, many people, Mark, that are younger, they don't remember that President Trump is only the second actor ever to become president. We went from Jimmy Carter, arguably one of the worst presidents to ever serve, to one of the best presidents, Ronald Reagan, from 1981 to 1989. A Hollywood actor, governor, conservative icon. He was a master communicator. He ended the Cold War, rebuilt the economy, and restored confidence in America. And who can forget, tear down that wall. On the bad end, Iran-Contra. As far as his reputation, Americans still debate how great he was. Conservatives say top 3 foreign countries. He's the cowboy who outspent the Soviets and smiled doing it. What do you recall about Ronald Reagan?
I remember being a kid getting into middle school when President Reagan became president. Into high school. Even as a kid, I'm like, that's more like it. Iran-Contra was a big deal, but it was after he had left office. To be honest, I think he was starting to have Alzheimer's issues. He did end up with Alzheimer's tragically, and I have heard that after he got out, he didn't even know that he had been president. It was so bad that they would take him to the park and he would sit there and look at the birds, and maybe children would come over. It's actually very sad, as strong of a man as he was, the ravages of Alzheimer's. It's a terrible thing. And I think he was having signs of that towards the end of his presidency. They said that he was sleepy and disinterested in meetings. It caught up with him. But to be fair, by today's standards, he wasn't that old, because Biden and Trump are older than Reagan ever was as president.
Right.
I look at him very highly.
I agree. After Reagan, we had George Herbert Walker Bush from 1989 to 1993. He was a World War II hero. He was the CIA director. He was the vice president. So he had a lot of good things on his resume. The good, the Gulf War was quick and decisive. He successfully managed the end of the Cold War. And bad, we always remember, read my lips. No new taxes. And then new taxes. So Americans respected him, but they didn't reelect him. Foreign nations liked his diplomacy. He was a world leader adults felt comfortable around. Your thoughts?
He was a really good president, and he had some rotten luck. The economy went into a recession right when the election was happening, for one. And two, a gentleman by the name of Ross Perot decided to run as an independent, and he had deep pockets, and he basically cannibalized the Republican vote because Perot, even though he ran as an independent, was conservative. So Perot split the ticket with Bush and Perot, who combined got the majority of the vote. People don't realize that Clinton got a minority of the vote, but because it was a three-way race, I think off the top of my head, Perot might have gotten 19-20%, and that just basically all went from Bush. And so Clinton got in because Perot entered the race. I would have liked to have seen the race be Bush versus Clinton. I think it would have been really close. I don't know if Bush would have been reelected or not, but it would definitely have been a lot closer, and he probably would have gotten reelected when you factor in that 20% of the population that were conservative went to Perot. And in all honesty, the first time I voted for president, let's see, that would have been George Bush the first time. And I actually saw him in person in Medina Square when he was running against Dukakis. But the second time he ran, I have to confess, I voted for Perot.
Perot did the best of any independent I can ever remember running. However, it's kind of ironic because it really hurt that independent movement. The people, after they voted for him, put Bill Clinton in office. That hurt the independent movement. You still have them here or there, but it's become more of a statement than winning the presidency. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't agree with either one, so hell or high water, I'm going to run, even though I don't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning.
Those third-party candidates cannibalize unless you have a third-party candidate that is so moderate that you're going to pull from both sides. All it does is help the other side win.
Maybe now we have a good argument for a third party, or at least a more moderate party to split the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. But that's another podcast. That's another discussion.
Sure.
Bill Clinton, 1993 to 2001. He's a two-termer. He was a Rhodes Scholar, a governor, a smooth-talking policy machine. The good, there was an economic boom. He balanced the budget with the help of the Republicans majority. The welfare reform. Now the bad. Let me think a minute. Oh, yeah. Some intern named Monica Lewinsky, that scandal. He was the basis for every late night joke for a decade. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Americans loved the prosperity, but of course they rolled their eyes at the scandals, and foreign countries liked him, especially Europe, but also made the jokes. And they did try to impeach him, as I recall. So a lot of things that he did were positive. Back in the day where you didn't have to vote strictly for one party or the other, I voted for him a long time ago, but I'll take that hit. What did you think about President Bill Clinton?
At the time, I didn't like him, and people forget. It seemed like all the time they were talking about controversies. There was this Whitewater scandal with some sort of investors, and there was all kinds of dirty stuff that happened in Arkansas, and there was a lot of smoke. Like if you crossed the Clintons, you'd end up dead, kind of thing. And it just so happened that some of the people did end up dying under strange circumstances. I'm not saying the Clintons had anything to do with it. No idea, but people put two and two together, and they came up with that. I think he was the benefactor of being president at a good time in world history. The Berlin Wall had fallen, and there was a peace dividend. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the United States could lessen their military spending and focus more on inward things because that threat had been defeated, and that threat was defeated because of Ronald Reagan and then George Bush. Clinton lucked out being president at the right time, but he was smart enough to know what to do and stay in his lane And he's the only president in our lifetimes that's balanced the budget. So that gives him some pretty high rankings on the Democrat side.
And I think he was the founding member and president of the Epstein Vacation Club. Am I right? I guess that remains to be seen. Then another two-termer, son of H.W. President George W. Bush, 2001 to 2009. He was Texas governor. He was a baseball team owner. Do you remember what baseball team he owned, Mark?
Texas Rangers.
Correct. So he had those regular guy vibes. The good, he really rallied the U.S., and I think we can all remember him grabbing that megaphone, at least all of us who are old enough, and you've probably seen videos of it, and saying they will all hear from us soon when he was talking about the terrorists. So strong leadership early in that crisis. Now, the bad part about that is the Iraq war was based on bad intel. Went after Saddam Hussein, which I think we can all agree wasn't the world leader of the year. But he went after the wrong guy at the very beginning instead of bin Laden. The Katrina response was viewed as weak. And his reputation, the Americans were divided. Foreign nations thought he acted before reading the instructions manual. What say you?
I liked him at the time, but going into Iraq and Afghanistan and having that drag on forever, and then you find out there wasn't any weapons of mass destruction, that's bad. Let's face it, that's bad. And we ended up being in those countries for a long time. And that's definitely going to be a factor in my rankings. I think he was a good man. He was a Christian man. I think everything that he did with the right intentions. Let's not forget, too, at the end of his final term, the economy tanked, and it was due to a banking situation. I don't know if you can pin that on him, but it seemed that things got pretty rough there at the end of Bush's term, and it seemed like he really didn't have any answers.
The more time passed, it seemed like he was more of a rhino, like he was in the pocket of the Democrats. It was like there wasn't even a break between Democrat rule. He had a lot of Democrat tendencies, always palling around with them. He may have been a bit of a rhino. So I did lose a bit of respect for him. But speaking about losing respect, President Barack Obama, 2009 to 2017, another two-termer. This was the age of the two-termers. He was a senator, professor, very intelligent guy, an inspirational speaker, a media darling. He did finish the job when it killed Osama bin Laden. You got to hand him that. He handled the 2008 crisis recovery and huge diplomatic popularity. The Obamacare rollout was seen as a disaster. When it first came out, thought it might be a good base to start with, but it needed a lot of changes. But the rollout was a disaster. I think they jumped right into it, kind of leapt before they looked. Foreign policy was seen as soft by critics. He was a sympathizer, seen by many, and Americans were split as far as his reputation. He was adored by the Democrats. He was their messiah. He could walk on water, and he was resented by conservatives. If he would have been a Republican, we would have all these marches and assassination attempts and everything else. But fortunately, Republicans and conservatives are a little more civil than that. But foreign nations practically gave him fan mail. They just loved him. What do you think of President Obama?
He gets more credit than he deserves because he really didn't do that much. When I think of those 8 years, other than the Affordable Care Act, I can't really think of what did he do other than he let the social stuff in our country where it went too far, and it all started under Obama. Once Obama became president, then Biden, the focus was on social things and not things that they should have been focusing on as president. The president needs to stay out of that and run the country. Their job is to execute the laws and run the country and stick to that. Keep us safe, keep us secure.
I agree with you. And then we have, of course, somebody that's making news a little bit here and there. President Donald J. Trump, 2017 to 2021. That's when he was number 45. A billionaire businessman, a TV star, again, actor, and a populist disruptor. The good, a booming economy, pre-COVID in his first term. Of course, they used COVID against him when that came out, even though it was not his fault. Criminal justice reform, energy independence, the Abraham Accords, border protection, and America First trade wins. Bad, the media war 24/7 in his first term, and again now, the COVID chaos, the constant investigations, many political motivated. So a lot of the bad points that I'm mentioning were brought on by his opponents, not really by anything that he's done. His reputation, Americans were, passionately and still are passionately split. There's no middle ground. You either love him or you hate him. And foreign nations either feared him or respected him, and respect him today for doing exactly what he has said. He was dealt a bad hand from the beginning, but his cabinet was pretty much picked for him. They were at him with impeachment because he did not have a majority. I believe in the House. I think they still had a majority in the Senate. That's the only thing that stopped him from getting impeached. But they weaponized the justice system, went after him left and right. So I think before COVID, things are running clean and smooth. And like the Democrats are apt to do, they took the first crises, twisted it around, and made it his fault, how he handled it, and went after him. I thought he did a really good job. The economy was booming. 2021 to 2025, President Joe Biden. Background was a lifelong politician, former vice president, America's most famous teleprompter-dependent grandfather. He had the infrastructure bill. Many see that as good if you consider massive spending good. Bad was that horrific Afghanistan withdrawal disaster, inflation spike, the border crisis, confusion, press conferences where he muttered unintelligently, constant stumbles, literal and political. As far as his reputation, Americans overwhelmingly think and thought he's too old. They mostly pretended everything is fine, and they hoped he didn't wander off.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, geez, I'm trying to be kind. Let's put it this way. Jimmy Carter seems like a great president compared to Biden. That's saying a lot. It was really bad. And then the more you find out about how he was not really even running things, we didn't really have a president while he was president. We had someone up there. He had been a career politician and got awarded this position. And he basked in the, hey, I'm president now. But then I think he went and took a nap.
Yeah.
No drive, no ambition. And like I said, with Obama, all the focus on the social stuff instead of running the country, getting our country stronger, doing things to prepare us for the future.
And then finally, we have our current president, number 47. He was number 45. We all know him. We either love him or we hate him. President Donald J. Trump. What can we say about President Trump? He hit the ground running. He saw what happened the last time. Time flies by. He doesn't believe in a lot of red tape. He gets a lot of criticism for jumping in head first to try and resolve things, presidential orders, when, of course, the Democrats want everything drugged through Congress and congressional approval and all of the red tape. I respect him for trying to get things accomplished. I believe doing it this way, he's getting a lot more accomplished than most presidents get done in 1 or 2 terms. That's the reputation for Democrats. They sit on their hands for 4 years. Nothing gets done. None of their campaign promises are kept. That's one thing that President Trump has lived and stood by. It's promises made, promises kept. That's how he does it. He takes action. He goes for what he wants to get done for the good of the country, and he makes it happen. He's not there to take 4 years and say, hey, I was the president of the United States. Well, what did you do?
Like
well,
Biden.
I was president. Yeah, like Biden.
Like Biden.
You got a lot of them like that. You look at Jimmy Carter, and they just sit there and do nothing. And if you do nothing, things inevitably are just going to get worse because you're doing nothing to prevent things from going bad. How do you feel about our current president?
He's definitely a disruptor. He is reshaping the country in a fundamental way. If you're a Democrat, you may not like some of that, but he is pushing the envelope on some things, which is why you always have all the judges trying to reverse what he does. But so far, the Supreme Court has been mostly favorable of what he's doing. It's hard to judge him because he's the current president, but I'll try to use that in my analysis of when we rank them.
Speaking of that, let's start ranking.
It's hard for me to rank them because being a conservative, I'm always going to rank the Republican ones first and the Democrats.
For the sake of time, let's do what are your top three and what are your bottom three. I'll tell you right off the bat who my top three are. I think they're pretty obvious. Number one is Donald Trump. I know that's controversial. I know his second term isn't finished yet, but I was impressed what he did in his first term until he was railroaded by the left. I thought he did a fantastic job. You cannot blame him for COVID, nor could you blame Biden for COVID. I don't like the way that they handled it in the Biden administration with all the strict regulations and masks and distancing and all that BS, travel, all those kind of things that they did. They ran a Big Brother program. But he's my number one. I like what he's doing. I like that he's accomplishing things. I have voted for him each and every time, and I would vote for him in 2028 if I could. Number two, it's a tight one, but I would have to say just for the fact that he had a lot longer time to get things done was Ronald Reagan. What he did with the Cold War and the Berlin Wall and his tough stance. People respect that. People respect strength. So he was my number two. And even though he served a very short time, and I'm sure he did some things behind the curtains, he was a womanizer. But as far as charismatic and a get things done guy, again, peace through strength. He was a strong guy at JFK. And those are my top three. Where do you stand on the top three?
No question, Ronald Reagan is number one. The only criticism of him is about the deficits, but the deficits bankrupted the Soviet Union and gave us lasting peace. You can't overstate that enough. What did happen is after we busted up the Soviet Union, then there was a peace dividend and we got our finances in order. And it just so happens it happened under Clinton and he took advantage of that. So I'm going to rank that accordingly. Number two, he gets a raw deal, and that's the first George Bush. He was a really good president. He handled the first Persian Gulf War flawlessly. He had a 90-something% approval rating at one point in time, but then the economy fell off the wheels at the very end. I don't think that was necessarily his fault. I think there was some systematic issues that caused that. And then what kneecapped him was Ross Perot. I think he would have had a really good, strong second term. I think he'd be considered more favorably in history if he had been given a full 8 years. He was really strong on foreign affairs. He helped transition after the Soviet Union fell. That all happened under his watch, even though I think Reagan's the one that really should be given the most credit. But Bush didn't mess it up. So he's number two. I'll have number three be Donald Trump because he is such a disruptor in chief and he's secured our border and all the things that we talk about on this podcast. I'm going to give him the solid number three position.
Those are solid. Why don't you do your bottom three and then I'll do mine.
The worst is Biden. There's no question. For all the reasons I gave before, he really wasn't even president. It's sad. Maybe he would have been more effective if he had been 20 years younger, but he wasn't. So he's the worst. And then the second worst would be Carter. He was very weak. It took Ronald Reagan to make people feel good about our country again. Our country felt like crap when Carter was president. So he's a strong number two. Nixon did some good things, but what he did illegally was pretty bad. And he was a crook. So I'm going to have to put him third worst. If he wouldn't have done the Watergate thing, he might have been third best.
I completely agree with you on the bottom three, basically for the same exact reasons. The only thing that might sway my opinion, if Lyndon Johnson had his hand with the CIA in any way in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. That was kind of a sketchy thing that went on. If that's how he got that position, and who knows, people wouldn't even thought anything like that back then because it was so well covered up by the media. They had the blinders on everyone. Now we're seeing the true corruption. They pulled back the curtain. It's like, oh, please shut it again. I don't know if I want to see that. We're just seeing so much now. It's horrendous. Hopefully he didn't, and we can't prove that he did, at least yet. But yeah, I definitely think they're bad. I think also that Obama, like you said, very overrated. Once things are looked at, I don't think his legacy is going to age well. There was a lot of hype, first African-American president and this and that. He was a really intelligent guy, very good speaker, but I think that a lot of that was a smokescreen. Let us know who your top and bottom three presidents were in your lifetime, from the time you were born to now. Some of the more interesting things we hear, we'll talk about in a later episode. Put it in the comments, or send it to redwrightsandyou@gmail.com. That is a email that I monitor, and we'll definitely take a look. Again, congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes for crushing that team up north. I never thought you'd slaughter them like that in all that snow and bad weather, but you truly showed who the best school and who the best team is.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do if Ohio State loses? You going to cut that out?
Mark, we already know they didn't.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They crushed them. Yeah, of course, this is before they played, but we have our hopes up. This is the year. If they lose it this year, I'd be very shocked. But with 5 to 8 inches of snow, bad weather, you never know. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We hope you all had a blessed and wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you all have a great holiday season coming up. Until we get together again and Mark and I are back off vacation and talking about current events, stay the course, stay strong, and stay patriotic. God bless each and every one of you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.